In a world where even the slightest controversial beer opinion can land you in trouble, a shadowy government organization tasked with policing the hottest takes in craft beer has flagged your record. You said too much, or maybe just enough to get noticed. Now you're being held in the Cold Store, a secret subterranean black ops detention facility, far from any pub, tap room, or civilization. No contact, no hope, just one final chance to speak your truth before the final verdict comes down. We're here on behalf of the state to hear your case, so tell us, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Jonny Garrett and I'm the co-founder of YouTube's craft beer channel.
Well, hello, Johnny.
Hello, Johnny.
Very cordial here in the Cold Store. Thank you for
Well,
that.
you know,
It's putting me at ease.
well, you know, we don't want to give you false hope. We don't want to give bad vibes yet because, you know, we haven't heard the charges put before you. So,
No. In fact, we don't even know what your controversial beer opinion is. So maybe if you want to enlighten us as to what it was that landed you up here.
Well, I can only assume the reason I'm here is because I've been on multiple podcasts stating that broadly, Guinness tastes the same whether you're in Dublin or the Philippines, whether you're in the Devonshire or Spoons, and it's the hill I'll die on.
I can already hear the sound of multiple Instagram accounts based on Guinness quality judgment closing around the country. This is.
I mean, let's be clear, they're not based on Guinness quality. They're based on human perception of what they think will be a quality or a poor Guinness.
It sounds like then you've got some backing behind this. So come on, let's get into this then. So what's the basis of this opinion then? Where's the scientific fact coming from? Because I know you're a scientific guy, Johnny, and yet you like the facts and the stats. So tell us, where's this come from,
Or is it just
Tell us
vibes?
about this.
I mean, it's actually weaker than that. There's not a lot of science from my point of view. I guess my argument is that there's no science to their point of view. So this kind of comes from, I mean, specifically, it comes from a chapter in my book where I go to Dublin, my latest book, The Meaning of Beer, I should say. I go to Dublin and I'm very excited to taste a pint of Guinness in Dublin because I've been told it's a whole religious, completely different experience to what we're consuming in the UK. And I sat there and I drank it and I went, yes, that was a nice pint. Like the other thousands of nice Guinnesses I've had in my time. It was no better, it was no worse. And that kind of threw into doubt all the things that I've been reading and particularly watching on Instagram around this idea that Guinness is better in certain locations or better in certain pubs. And I'd always had a slight skepticism of that because quite often the people that are claiming this are not necessarily people that I would trust with exceptional beer knowledge and indeed beer pouring tech knowledge. And so I really started to dig into it and started to watch all the people that are making quite a lot of money, some of them out of Guinn-fluencing,
Oh, no.
as we
That's
call
own
it.
word.
Love it.
And realized that essentially you almost kind of knew whether they were going to like the pint before they drank it or even before you saw it. You could look at the pub and go, they're going to like that pint. Or you could certainly look at the pint, and if it had been poured nicely, you'd be like, well, they're probably going to like that one. But essentially, my thesis became that there are good and bad pints of Guinness. Don't get me wrong. There are some shocking pints of Guinness being poured out in the world. But there are also shocking pints of Foster's and shocking pours of Schofferhofer. And if we start to expand this idea that there is a huge variation in quality of what is a delicious, but let's face it, mass-produced, filtered, pasteurized conglomerate macro beer, then we have to start applying that to every single beer in the world. And I just don't think that A, that's helpful, or B, realistic. So there are great pints of Guinness, there are bad pints of Guinness, but 99% of them taste the same.
Yeah, I mean, I always tend to, I think that it's ultimately one of those drinks which is, you notice more when you've got a bad one than anything else. You just know when it's bad.
Yeah, for certain. I mean, there was, I think it was Top Jaw, the two very posh guys that go and make very beautiful films and interviews on Instagram about food. They had a comedian on who quite rightly pointed out, we worship the pubs that serve great Guinness. We should be worshipping the brewery. The brewery does all of the hard work and indeed installs the fucking technology that these pubs are using for them and checks on them every 2 weeks. So if there is a stunning pint of Guinness, it's probably the brewers and the tech team at Diageo, and Diageo spend millions every year on this, that should be congratulated. And I had a conversation. I don't know whether this was on the record or off the record, but when I was there, I was chatting to somebody at Diageo who said that it's a really fine line they have to walk, because obviously it's brilliant that there's people out there talking about Guinness, saying it's wonderful. And it's also wonderful that they're out there supporting small businesses, saying these pubs serve Guinness brilliantly. But it's a very tricky thing to manage, because sometimes they'll go to an important account that they think serves great Guinness and they get absolutely slagged off. So firstly, it creates an issue with their relationships with their businesses, but also Diageo have invested millions to make sure that Guinness tastes the same wherever you go. And yet all of their influencers are out there going, that's not true. No, it varies massively. And so they can't fully engage with these people, because then they'd be backing up this idea that Guinness isn't delicious wherever you go. So I think even the people at Guinness are a little bit nervous and skeptical of this. That's not what the person at the brewery said.
No.
They were talking about like the issues that it has from a marketing perspective, but they recognize it, I think.
Well, listen, Johnny, it isn't us that you've got to convince. So ultimately, we've taken this down. That's currently sitting with the court. So we should get, I don't know, we should get a verdict. They're usually pretty swift with the verdict as to whether or not you're going to be found guilty, but they're usually pretty quick about it. So I suppose in the meantime, let's just shoot the shit a little bit. So you've been a busy man lately. You've just
True.
done the Keep Cask Alive Series 2, and that's culminated in a bit of a government petition. So tell us a little bit more on the progress of that.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah.
That's picked up massive steam, hasn't it?
It's been good. Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. I feel like I'm sort of in the middle. Like I was dreaming of more, dreading there was going to be less, and sort of, I guess, ended up roughly where my expectations would have been. So yeah, we've just finished. We spent the last year essentially, Brad and I, filming a 7-part documentary series about the joys of Cask Ale, and each episode was based around sort of one of the tenets that UNESCO would look for if we were trying to get Intangible Cultural Heritage status for Cask Ale. So UNESCO World Heritage status is often, people think of Stonehenge, Tower of London, Pyramids of Giza, that kind of stuff. But there's an intangible heritage element, which the government have just ratified that element of the treaty, so we can get essentially culture recognized. And we thought it'd be, Cask Ale was the perfect candidate for that, because it can't go for like a PGI or anything like that. It's not specific style. So how do we go about protecting it in ways that, CAMRA, BBPA, SEBA aren't already doing? So that's where the idea came from back in 2021 when we did season 1 of Keep Cask Alive. And season 2, it was all based around this attempt to get to UNESCO, which is a long old journey. And it starts with getting the government to recognize it as intangible heritage. So that's what this petition was. And we needed, it's the official government website that we're petitioning on. We need 10,000 to get a statement from the government, which we achieved last week. And we got a fairly positive response from the government. They fudged it a bit. They didn't commit to anything or really say anything remotely of worth, but they did say they'd welcome an application, whatever that means. And then once we get to 100,000, there'll be a debate, and most in Parliament. And most importantly, at that point, we can kind of revisit what it is we're petitioning for. So we could then push it on to be like, actually, what we really want is UNESCO. So that's what we need to get to, so that we can then have that discussion in Parliament. But it's a long way off that, and the petition took a long time to go live because of the due process. So we've got 6 months from the 1st of April, so it ends on the 1st of October. And obviously all our documentaries are out now, so now we're working out other content to make to keep that ticking over. But luckily we've got lots of B-roll from everything we were doing.
Nice. Well, assuming you get out of this alive, there's always collaborations that you could do with the guys at Planet Beer TV.
Or Brad can do it if I'm taken
Yeah,
down.
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling a bit sorry for Brad really because I'm sure he's sweating about now because it's something his workload's going to increase quite massively if you don't.
Yeah, let's feel sorry for Brad, not me at the
But
mercy of a jury or a judge. I'm not
Hey
quite
man, it's
sure.
your opinion. That's all I'm saying.
Outside of Keep Cask Alive, though, how is everything going on the channel right now, and how about yourself as a? Because you do it full time, don't you? So how's that kind of going as a?
Do you know, it depends when you ask me. If you're asking me now, things are going pretty well. The Keep Cask Alive was very exciting, a lot of fun. We learned a lot. I think we made some quite beautiful stuff, and we got paid for it. It was funded by 9 beer businesses, so breweries, suppliers, camera. Last year was lean, and I think so. I'm also the chair of the British Guild of Beer Writers, so I sort of see a lot of the issues that are out there in the industry for journalists in the beer space, and a lot of the concerns that they have. And for most people, it's actually paying bills. That's how dire it is. Some writers are barely getting the minimum wage doing what they do in the beer industry, and that's been incredibly tough. And we were in that situation basically last year, and this year's been very different, thankfully. And that's kind of the life of a freelancer to some extent. It's feast and famine. But I mean, the channel is doing really, really well. It's always remarkable when we do Cask Ale content how engaged international people are. And I think that the UK really forgets just how interesting our Cask Ale scene is. And I remember 15 years ago getting into craft beer, not denigrating Cask Ale, but just being a bit bored of it. I grew up near Hook Norton. I loved Hook Norton. I still drank Hook Norton, but I never really considered it exciting or interesting beyond sort of my early 20s. And that's completely shifted. And I've recognized that outside of the UK, everybody's very excited about Cask Ale. And a lot of the views for the series that should really just apply to the Brits has been from America and from Scandinavia as well. Had a huge interest in it.
Yeah, I think certainly some of the brewers we've spoke to, the international brewers, they're always going on about cask. That's what we want to be doing. We want that kind of sort of heritage style, or dispense or storage or whatever you want to call it. In this instance, we want that to be kind of what we want to get into. But it's obviously so difficult for people who aren't, from Britain. But the Americans are so engaged. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll never forget. I was chatting to one of my favorite writers, Jeff of Biavana, over on the west coast of America, and he wrote a whole blog sort of waxing lyrical about his trip to Green King and how wonderful Green King IPA is. And obviously that, to a Brit, no disrespect to Green King, is baffling because it's a 3.5% beer that you get everywhere, and unlike Guinness, does taste pretty different.
Variable quality.
So yeah, I mean, it was truly wild to me to read that, and probably the Americans feel the same when we're Brits singing the praises of, I don't know, something like Boston Lager or something, which America is so over and it's in terminal decline as a brand. But other people are like, oh, I remember going to Boston and being in the Cheers bar and drinking that, or whatever experience they had. That was my experience, actually. I did that. But yeah, we all sort of fetishize each other's cultures and completely pass over what we have that's incredible and unique. And that was a lot of the reason why we did keep Cask Alive. It was A, to get people back in the pubs after COVID. Sorry, get people drinking cask back in the pubs after COVID. And B, because we just felt slightly sad that nobody ever talked about the incredible stuff that Timothy Taylor's, Hook Norton, Shepherd Neame, Fuller's have been doing for decades, while the rest of the beer scene completely died. They just kept going through it and kept plugging away and kept making great beer. And they should have had their moment to be like, we're still doing what we've always done. We haven't compromised. And instead, craft beer came along and went, look at us.
Yeah. It's like it seems like it's a bit of a marketing thing, isn't it? It's, I suppose, those breweries that you mentioned there, that would have been very, not just in sense of the liquid being traditional, but just as a business, they're kind of traditional. They haven't got that, I suppose, the disruptor kind of ethos, which is what craft beer kind of had, or independent craft beer or whatever had to do when it came around on the scene.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all know that Cask Ale has an image problem, and it's done it's done a huge amount to address that and to improve, but that still has a long way to go. What was really interesting, actually, and this didn't make it into Keep Cask Alive, but it went into the full episode we do on Timothy Taylor's, was chatting to their well, now I think retired CEO. He was sort of saying that, if Cask Ale is in terminal decline, if it is going to basically disappear, they want Timothy Taylor's to be the Guinness, the one that survived. And they have made kind of that their approach to it. So they have been quite disruptive in what they've been doing in terms of the price that they charge, which they've kept, incredibly high, which they've managed to then reinvest hugely into the business to ensure quality. They're the only Cask Ale brewery I know that does cold chain the entire way, invest huge amounts in their tech, to make sure essentially that every pint of Timmy's Landlord is in the best possible nick it can be, and that from a marketing perspective, it's respected as much as it can be and revered by the people that love it, which is essentially the Guinness playbook. So it's really interesting to kind of hear that perspective from him and hear that although they've been much quieter about it than Diageo have, that is the approach they're taking, which is very modern compared to most Cask Ale brewers.
Yeah, it does feel like that, doesn't it? And obviously we're up in the Black Country, which is, you could argue, the pros and cons of the Midlands versus the South cask scene. But obviously ours is better. But we were obviously brought up with serious quality. We just didn't know it until until our quality started fading, and Banksy's started declining hugely, and then you kind of see other brewers like, not disparaging Holden's at all, but their quality rolled off quite a long time ago. But you don't miss it until it starts fading, I guess. You kind of just take it for granted it's always going to be there. But I don't think myself and Chris have ever been so aware of we might lose something really special, and it's really sad. It's really, really sad. I think if Badham's disappears, I don't know what to do with myself. I think that's it. It's gone. There's no point carrying on. But yeah, Timmy Taylor needs to. Timmy Taylor's need to step up, man. Yeah, if they've got to replace my beloved Batham. So it's a sad time.
Just turning yourself into the cold store, aren't you? Just like if Batham's is gone, take me and my opinion about Midlands beer, throw me in jail.
I've been found innocent already by my peers.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's fine. I can say what I want. Yeah,
it's a locked up episode that's never been shown. I believe. Well, Paul, have you got the notification? Is the verdict in?
Yeah, well, it is, but they can't be bothered. They've gone down the pub, so they've just said toss a coin, basically. See if Johnny's innocent or guilty. So.
Oh wow, okay.
I'd take a 50-50 chance, to be honest.
So what I'll do is I'll quickly do a share of the Wheel of Justice.
Wow.
I feel like the Wheel of Justice should have had a little bit more design to it. If this is the thing that decides my fate.
It's lean times.
Right, okay.
It's lean times. We're all feeling the pinch, Johnny.
Clearly,
so,
yeah.
I'm just going to give it a spin, and we'll see what fate decides. So let's go. It's exciting, isn't it?
It's got sound effects and everything. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
I mean, it's even pointing out the word. It's not even just. Oh, my word. Okay.
I feel like that was inappropriate.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, Jonny Garrett, I've been tasked with informing you that you are guilty and sentenced to death. You will, you'll remain here in the cold store. But as with all these instances, while it may seem harsh that you're here and going to die for your opinion on this, the Overlord is actually a very kind person, and what they've done, it's standard custom that you'll get a final 4-pack of beers. And it's kind of almost fantasy-esque because it doesn't even... There's a way that these beers can just, even if they're in the past and long gone, we know a guy who knows a guy who can get you that beer back from the past.
I presume it's cold stored as well.
And it's cold stored, yeah. Cold chain all the way through.
Just over there.
So, you've got 4 beers in your pack. Beer number 1 is the first beer you ever drank.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hugely happy about that one because it's Beer d'Or.
Beer d'Or. Is that
which
the
it
is that the
does.
that's the Aldi lager, isn't it?
No, please. I believe Sainsbury's, maybe Tesco.
It's one of the little stubbies that you would
Yeah.
you'd have at a barbecue. Or your dad would always have it
Mhm.
at a barbecue, and yeah,
Yes, exactly that. So it was. I write a whole chapter about it in The Meaning of Beer. Actually, I have a deep love for it, but not based on any of its merits. It's purely based on nostalgia. It was what my dad drank, and it was the first beer that was handed to me by my brother when I was about 13. He'd been left in charge of the house. He'd invited some friends over. We were going to watch some 18 movies and drink beer. And I was 13, 14, and was told I was going to do that as well. And it was disgusting. Absolutely rancid. But as beer tends to do on teenagers, you sort of start to get used to it, and then you start to love it. And then it sort of lubricated my awkward teens completely, really. And now when I go home, I still request that there's beer door in my parents' fridge for me to consume. I'll only ever have one because, again, disgusting. But
it's just the right measure as well. Just the right measure.
yeah, exactly. It's only 250 mil, so you don't have to suffer for long. But there's just something about uh, my parents putting a load of crisps in a bowl and me cracking a beer door that just takes me straight back to being 16, 17, friends, barbecues, parents. So it'll be a really nice drink to have, actually, thinking about it. As I look back on my life before I'm put to death for a perfectly valid and sane opinion, to think about my parents and my friends and what I've thrown away.
You'll have a long chance to do that because you have got a drink or 24, unfortunately. But
What?
Well, he's got a 24 pack as part of his 4-pack.
To be fair, the box, I remember the box of the beer doors was amazing. It was shaped like a Robot Wars entry. It had like this mad angles to it.
with the finger,
So
the holes in the top.
yeah, that would just about make it home. But if you put it in the wrong place and needed to move it after that, it was going to go.
Yeah.
I remember we went. So my house was sort of It was centrally located, so my friends would often end up at mine, and so we all drank a lot of beer door. And I remember one time we went to another guy's house, and he didn't have beer door. He had it was Beck's that he had, and I remember we all drank like half a bottle. And like, this is disgusting, because I guess being Beck's, like, I think it was all malt.
Yeah.
It was significantly hoppier than beer door, although still barely hopped. But it was also in green glass, so it was skunk to hell. And just everything about it was wrong. And we turned our noses up at Beck's, but beer door, we'd chow down like it was water, which it basically was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the next beer choice, Johnny, will hopefully be a bit more pleasant for you to drink. Although you've got good memories of beer door. So beer 2 is the beer that you've drank most of in your life.
This took a lot of thinking, and I nearly had a query, because I was wondering whether it's like, is it liquid? How much liquid has been consumed, or is it occasions?
That's it. That's a good point, and we haven't thought that one through. So thanks for picking a hole in that question.
I think it's the one that you've probably ordered/drunk the most of, just by volume.
I think it's probably, it's probably Paulaner Hellers, because I used to import that in a former life, and our office. So I worked for Cave Direct. I was head of their marketing. So they bring in Paulaner. They're I guess the second biggest Belgian beer importer. But we also worked above Cats and Jammers, the German beer hall in London Bridge. So after work, we would very, very likely end up there. So Paulaner would be the volume. But the thing that first came into my mind when I learned of the question was actually Pressure Drop Pale Fire, because I remember endless nights on that, multiple visits to the brewery. It was on when Brad and I were coming up with the idea of the craft beer channel. It was always on in the Old Fountain, and it was also always on in my local in Kentish Town as well, where I lived. So it's one of those two. It'd be a toss up, but I think Pressure Drop Hellfire is certainly the one that will stay with me the longest because it was kind of the beer that got me into hoppy beer. It's still a sensational beer, and I think I think Pressure Drop as a whole are hugely underrated in the UK beer scene. I think they make absolutely incredible beer and are rarely talked about in the same regard as the Verdants and those sort of types of hoppy brewers. But yeah, I mean that coloured, along with I guess Gamma Ray from Beavertown, that coloured my entire experience of like London from 2012 to 2017, pretty much. And
That's
whenever it was on tap, I was
that's actually
excited.
really nice, and it's a lesser spoken answer, because obviously when we talk to brewers and stuff on the channel about the formative beers, the beers that got them into craft beer, it's Gamma Ray or Punk IPA always pops up,
Mhm.
but you
Colonel probably
yeah,
is a common answer
but
as well.
no, like I didn't realize that Pale Fire had been going for that long.
Yeah, so it was pretty much the first beer they brewed. So it was right out the gate when they founded in 2012 or 13.
Oh wow, they are quite OG then on the scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They were, eighth or ninth brewery to found in London during the craft beer renaissance. Yeah, they've been going for a long, long time. And Pale Fire was there right from the beginning. They started brewing out of their shed, the three founders, and it was a trial batch from that they scaled up. And yeah, I think you can almost age a beer geek, certainly as sort of a London or London adjacent beer geek, by whether they see Pressure Drop as this brewery that slightly came out of nowhere with hazy IPAs when they did that collab with Verdant, or whether they were the Pale Fire, Wallbanger, Hefeweizen. There's another beer that fell by the wayside that I can't remember. Like their sort of core beers. It was a brown ale, an imperial brown ale, Cast Iron Billy. God, I haven't thought about that for a long, long time. Back when brewers made all kinds of mad stuff that nobody actually really wanted to drink, but we were just like, what the fuck's this now? I'm going to drink that. So yeah, Pale Fire, and it was pretty like I remember being at the first London Craft Beer Festival, so it must have been 2013, and hearing the word mosaic for the first time. That's how sort of seminal it was to me when I was drinking that beer. So yeah, I think that's probably the one.
I mean, we'll include that one in your 4-pack because you've already got a lager in there with your beer door. Although I'm pretty sure you would much rather have the Paulaner, but
Yeah, I definitely would. I'm not sure the beer door is technically a lager. I mean, it might be lager yeast, but I don't think it's been lagered in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, on the subject of German lagers, I suppose, I know that you're a massive fan of them, massive fan of Crispy Boys. Where do Paulaner sit in terms of like the ranking of the great breweries?
Well, so we did if you'd have asked me, just swigging on his Augustina. If you'd have asked me before I did the blind taste test, I think I did last year, where I put the big six against each other, I'd have probably said that Paulaner was second to Augustina. But I think now Paulaner might be near the bottom. Augustina obviously takes the top slot within Munich. Tegs is better, but Augustina takes the top slot in Munich. Oh, he's
We
well
love
stocked.
Tegs.
He's all over it.
Tegs weather.
And then Spaten I think is really underrated. I think it's a great beer. You can get it in freaking Sainsbury's now, and that's been a bit of a game changer for me. And yeah, Paulaner, I guess mid-pack. Hofbräu is pretty great. We actually filmed with it for the Craft Beer channel on middle of last week, and thought it was tasting great. I mean, the thing with that question is, again, it's a bit like the Guinness. It's like the variation is pretty minimal. They are all sensational. They're all PGI accredited. They all use almost identical ingredients. Probably only the yeast that really varies. So they're all pretty great. But yeah, Paulaner, middle of the pack, maybe a little bit lower, with Augustina on top.
I just drink my Roadhouse over here by myself. It's fine.
I love that. I mean, that's a brewery I would love to visit. It's pretty idyllic from the look of it. I mean, I won't spoil this one because this is an answer later on, but there's a lot of places in the vicinity of Munich that I've never been to that I'd love to, including Tegs. I mean, Rothaus is quite a way away. But I think, we always talk about Munich beer, but actually all the best ones are from just outside, I think.
Well, halfway through your 4-pack at the moment, or unveiling your 4-pack. Now, these sort of trials aren't cheap, and nor is the electricity for the chair. So
Yikes.
we're actually sponsored by, we've got some messages from our sponsors that we need to go to now, just to keep things funded. Hello there guys, Chris here, just to give you a quick ad break about our Patreon. So recently we have launched one for Planet Beer TV, and we would love to have you on board. If you head on over to the link in the description, you can sign up and become a member, and you will get extra podcast episodes, extra content, extended cuts, and also access to our little chat group where you can interact with us and share ideas for content going forward and help shape the community as a whole. So why not become a member and a financial backer and help us create more quality craft beer content? Back to the episode. Right then, beer number 3, third beer in your 4-pack. This is a bit of a double question actually, because this beer is the beer that best pairs with your last meal. So I suppose the question will be, what is your last meal?
I mean, I was thinking of like turning this element into a mini off-menu podcast.
Yes.
Because I want starter, main, and dessert, and cheese course.
I think you're allowed. I think.
Am I allowed?
Yeah.
Well, so we'd start with like giant prawns cooked over fire, garlic and oil all over it.
Ooh.
Serve that with Allagash wit.
Oh.
Then we go for a Neapolitan pizza with pepperoni, served with Alchemist Focal Banger. And then I'd have a classic cliche like sundae, like from Pizza Hut in the 90s.
Covered in sweets.
Yeah. Yeah, covered in sweets and, like Smarties that are obviously semi-frozen so they break your teeth. and I'd serve that with Bourbon County Stout.
Oh.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Talking my language, that.
I imagine that then as like a bit of an amalgamate. It's basically a flight. Your third beer is essentially a flight.
A flight, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could take Focal Banger with the Neapolitan pep. That's the thing that has to happen from there. That would be the solo answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
If I
Focal
died
Banger.
without doing that, I'd be very, very upset.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'd be a bit cruel, like needlessly cruel, to only let you have a starter and a dessert.
Yeah.
I don't think that'd be the done thing, really, in this cruel dystopian world that we've currently engineered to do a podcast.
I have just been condemned to death by an animated wheel that was half designed. So I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't let me have some pizza.
They said AI could be the death of us, but they never said how rudimentary and basic it would be.
Yeah, it's like at the end, is it Cabin in the Woods where the guy gets killed by the merman and he's like, oh, for God's sake. It's like that. It's like, oh, it's the badly designed wheel of death for me. Brilliant. Thanks.
Just as a quick aside on that, Focal Banger, we've been lucky enough, I guess, to drink quite a lot of it over the past couple of years, and it seems to be getting more and more available for various different channels in the country. Do you think that kind of might ruin the mystique of it a little bit?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the Craft Beer channel, we are huge proponents, and we've changed the entire not way that we make videos, but videos that we make as a result of this. It's just this kind of recognition that expectation is everything. So if you expect it to be great, your reaction to it is going to be more extreme. Whether it's you love it or you hate it, it's just going to be more extreme. And so that's why we did the hype train. That's why we do the blind taste tests. We just try and get around that as much as possible. But the other thing that we've really learned from being incredibly privileged and getting to travel the world is that once you take a beer out of its context, it's a different beer. It might not be a worse beer, it might not be a better beer, but you change the expectation around it. And so, yeah, we fetishize Focal Banger, Pliny the Elder, all this kind of stuff. But we shouldn't really judge it until we've had it at the brew pub in Santa Rosa or at the Alchemist tap room. Had Heady Topper on cask, which is what John Kimmich serves it on. I've no idea whether it's good because he only started doing that after we'd been. Beer is experiential and it should be experienced, I think, in the best context for it, not in a bottle share in your garage with a can that's been muled over non-cold chain, So we've really tried to take that on board And so I think, yeah, with the more focal banger that gets to this country, the less people are going to be excited about it, the less they're going to rave about it. And I think to some extent, John knows that. So he knows that, if he's got the reputation he's got, the best thing he can do is try and keep it in house.
There is definitely that thing with American hype beers, because me and Paul have obviously done a couple as well, like a hype beer series, and it's almost like it doesn't hurt that some of those beers do manage to get over here and put onto the market, because that helps with it a little bit, just as a little reminder that, hey, it's here, and if you go over to the States, this is what you can have more of. But by the same token, you're right, you're kind of touching on that kind of balancing act. As the market becomes a bit more swamped with it, it really does ruin the mystique. So that's a really interesting point.
I think the chase of it is also part of the joy. It certainly was when I first got into craft beer. And I think when you're learning and you're new to craft beer and you're just discovering all the amazing flavors, it's very exciting to have read on a blog about Heady Topper. And then you're like, fuck, I can get it. It might be 20 quid a can, but I can get it. And I think, when people are really, I hate when people are really dismissive of the idea of hype, because I think it's gatekeeping in a way. It's sort of saying, don't get excited about that. Like, why the fuck shouldn't people get excited about this? It's a beer that they've been told is incredible and they'll get to try it. And so we try not to say, don't get excited or only drink it there. It's definitely helpful that these beers get around, but we do always say, the best place to drink Focal is 100% at the brewery, or indeed at the pizza restaurant just down the road that was great. I can't remember the name of it, but it just had cans of Heady and Focal and had great tavern style pizzas, just living the absolute dream, which is where this sort of came from. And my love of super hoppy American West Coast beers with pepperoni pizzas is just, it's amazing.
So obviously you're very well travelled when it comes to beer, certainly. So I think you've been to a lot of the box tickers that people want to go to. But what's the beer that you've never tried but always wanted to, or indeed the brewery that you've always wanted to visit but have never been able to?
Yeah, so sort of on what I was saying there about we're always encouraging people to go and it always tastes best. Like, I've had these beers, but I've never had them fresh in the way that they should be. And so the place that I've never been, and I almost, when people talk about the fact they've been, I just stay quiet because it's so shameful that I've never been, but it's Bamberg. And I need to go to Schlenkerla, Spezial, and Kiesmann and Mars and try all those beers fresh on draft in the place where they're supposed to, with the food that's supposed to be consumed, with the incredible architecture that place has. So that is at top of my bucket list, and I've never made it.
That was that's actually on mine and Paul's list for a European trip. We're looking
Well, let's all go.
Yeah, that's
It's the collab nobody knew they wanted.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Because I'm in those. There's some architecture there that's pretty much UNESCO listed, isn't it? I think.
I think Bamberg. Maybe Bamberg is UNESCO listed.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it is. So when I was doing
yeah.
the research, I was like, man, this looks incredible. But I mean, so many places in Germany just look like that, especially when you go out into the sticks, like Black Forest region, and that's some of those towns. You're just like, postcard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's it's a shame that you won't get to see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting I'm nearly
right.
dead. So maybe I should say if it's for my 4-pack, 24-pack, I've lost track.
I mean, you've done well out of this, considering it was only supposed to be a 4-pack. Yeah. So which beer would it be for beer number 4 then?
Well, so the other thing I was thinking is I've had some burial beers, but I can't have enough burial beers.
Burial beers.
So Burial are in Charlotte, and apparently that has an incredible beer scene generally. But we had a friend. So Clawhammer Supply, you have a great YouTube channel, homebrew channel. We met the founder of that channel. He came over and he wanted to meet us. We took him for a Cask Ale crawl around London, and he brought over a load of Burial beer because I asked him. I was like, I want to try Burial because everyone raves about it. and apparently it's amazing. And honestly, I had the best muled can of West Coast IPA I've ever had. I had an incredible barrel aged stout, and sort of chatting around it. They're a real brewer's brewery, and that's always a good sign. Some of the best breweries in the world are breweries that general consumers haven't even really heard of, or really given a second's thought to. Like we covered one last week, which is Delacen, which was so popular 10 years ago, I think, and now nobody talks about them, even though they make probably the best lager in Belgium and the best blonde, probably the best triple, definitely the best pale ale. So yeah, Burial, and anything from Burial, just give me something from Burial and I'll be happy because it excites me so much.
It's interesting what you said there as well about kind of a brewer's brewery. I know that obviously they are quite well, they're very well regarded. But the Colonel, I feel like the Colonel's very much one of those that are, they're just solid, and I think that speaks in like the sense that they don't need to really do much with the branding. That is part of their shtick. Really, it's just let the beer do the talking.
Yeah, I mean, I recently learned that they do have, like, it was done by a pretty well-respected artist, the original Colonel branding.
Right. Oh, really?
It was yeah, but it was supposed to be super understated and super cheap to produce, obviously, which would have been a big concern for Evan at the start. But yeah, I mean, I think they're a brewer's brewery almost purely because they refused to jump on the hazy IPA train. I think if they had done that, they probably would be as lauded and loved as anybody. But I think they recognized, A, they didn't want to make those kinds of beers. B, they didn't want to go into can. And I also think that Evan, I don't know if you ever met Evan, but he's one of the most sort of thoughtful, considered, and non trend chasing. I don't know what the word for somebody who really just does their own thing at their own pace. There must be a great word for it. But
yeah.
He was never interested in that, so he never did. And he wanted slow growth, and that's worked for them because they now make something like 9 or 11,000 hectoliters a year, like a big fucking brewery. And people don't realize the scale of Colonel now and what they've
just moved sites, haven't they? Was that just the tap room?
The tap room's moved. I didn't. Maybe they extended into the tap room.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The new tap room is amazing. Like, only Colonel can make that space work. It's essentially a glass box at the bottom of a flat set of flats, but it is so beautifully done, and the food and the beer is obviously incredible, and the service. Moritz is like one of the legends of the London craft pub scene, I guess, like an absolutely legendary publican, and he runs it and does an incredible job. It's just a magical place.
Yeah, we need to go. I mean, Colonel's on my Mount Rushmore of beer. Really, I think I just love everything they do. I'm an unashamed fanboy of everything Colonel. So yeah, and we still
should never be any shame in fanboying.
No, I don't think so.
No. The Mount Rushmore of beer. Hang on, there's a new
new podcast. If this one doesn't work,
we'll get you back on for that one. Oh no, you'll be dead.
I'm dead. Get Brad on.
Actually, I mean, something's just come through. The governor has got back from the pub and he's been listening in. And he's been listening to answers, your very thoughtful, well-considered answers. And he's thought, you know what? This guy isn't that bad after all. So he's going to throw in...
What a review.
An extra beer, a fifth beer. Or, I mean, it could be way more than a fifth. We don't really know at this point. We're not counting. But technically beer number 5. And
the whole concept's falling apart. It's not 5 beers anymore.
Yeah,
Fuck it. I apologize.
You just found
what's your last 100 beers before you die?
You just found the immediate loopholes for everyone else.
Beer number 5, the best beer you've ever had.
So this would be, I guess you would call it Budvar Wet Hopped Reserve.
Oh, okay.
So I say you would call it that because it doesn't have a name. It's never been released. It's never left Budvar Brewery's cellars. It is one tank of one brew that the brewers do annually, and then they age it for that year or until it's gone. And it's the Budvar Reserve, which is their 7.5%
Oh,
Pilsner, which they do release and they bottle. But it is hopped with wet SARS direct from the fields, and then obviously lagered for until it's drunk. And the only people that drink it are guests of the brewery or the brewers themselves, who are just doing it for the fun, for the love of the beer, for experiments where they might try new hops. So when we went there in 2023, and we explored the cellars, there was a SARS version, there was a Most version. So Most is a crossbreed of SARS and UK Jester, and Most means bridge. And there was another variety which I forget. So they had 3 varieties that year, but the SARS was texturally like wet meringue, just the softest, velvetiest thing I've ever consumed. It tasted of strawberries and smelt of strawberries and meadows, and just had this gorgeous kind of brioche, bready, croissant-y malt character to it. And was like, honestly, again, I put it in the meaning of beer. The quote from the guy that was doing the tour with us, he just said, he said he could die now. He just went, "We could die now."
wow.
Having tried this, it's quite a dark thing to hear, particularly in his accent and completely out of the blue, and whispered in a cellar. Sounded like the start of a horror movie. But like, I mean, this guy had worked at Budvar his entire life. He was in his 80s. He'd retired like 10 years before, but just become a tour guide. And so he'd been a tour guide for 10 years. He does 4 tours a day. He drinks on all of them. So you feel a little bit like he was picking his spot.
Yeah.
You know, like if he thought, if he felt pains in his chest, he'd be like, "Quick to the wet hop SARS tank." And it's the best beer I've ever had, and I think it's the best beer I ever will have.
Oh wow.
I do. Like, it's an interesting thing because craft beer is always about that chase, right? It's about trying to find the next best thing, trying to find the next delicious thing, chasing the experience. I think I've had it.
Nice.
And I
Yeah.
shared it with some very lovely people like Brad, Radim, the mad guy that will die underneath the taps. I think his name's Horror. I should remember. It's very bad of me. But yeah, just the most incredible beer, and made more special by the fact that very few other people have tried it. And so I can tell this story and no one can contradict me.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Oh,
fair
wow.
enough.
That just made me
I mean,
incredibly.
that sounds like something that we also need to do, Paul.
I mean, it's
Is
quite.
it similar to when you have Pilsner Urquell out of the tank?
Well, so if you do just the Budvar tour, you get Budvar original out of the tank, which is great. But we were there with Radim, who's the global brand ambassador, and so we did get a special influencers tour.
Nice.
So we got to try all kinds of mad things. We tried like Budvar original at a week old, a month old, 2 months old, 3 months old. We tried all the different wet hop varieties. We tried a super fresh. The ultra fresh Budvar Dark was amazing. It was like somebody just carbonated some cocoa that had gone cold. It was so chocolatey. If I could give anyone else that experience, or if I could tell anybody to have an experience, it would be that. It would be go to either Pilsner Urquell or Budvar with somebody that has the key, which is this like pig's tail coil that means you can just plug it anywhere and it will pour relatively not foamy. So just wander around there, which we did for about an hour on the first day and about 2 hours on the next day, just plugging in and trying stuff. It was just the best
Oh man.
beer experiences of my life. And lager fresh from the tank cannot be beaten. There's no ale that can beat fresh lager from the maturation tank. It's
Yeah.
carnal how
Yeah.
good it is.
It's got that kind of real creamy kind of thing going on, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's that natural carbonation. It's how fresh it is. It's never seen oxygen or sunlight. It's the perfect temperature at 1-2 degrees in that cellar. It's the atmosphere around it. It's often the people that you're with. There is honestly, there's no better food. I worked in food. I worked for Jamie Oliver for years. I worked in food before I got into beer. There is no better gastronomical experience in the world that I've ever had that comes even close to exploring the Budvar sellers. It was just beyond anything.
On the subject of the Jamie Oliver thing, did you do his food tube stuff?
No. So Brad did the branding for it.
Okay.
That's how Brad and I met. I was working on his website, so I was doing lots of copy and content and helping organize competitions around it and stuff, but not the actual content itself. So Craft Beer Channel came out of the fact that he installed his food tube studio in me and Brad's office, and we were sat there at our desk going like, we could use that for something. was kind of how it went. And we were on FoodTube in the end as presenters for a couple of episodes, which really helped us in the start. To reach monetization took us an absurdly short time because we had that kind of backing. But I left Jamie's 2 years. Yeah, 2 years after FoodTube, so we haven't had that sort of boost for a while now.
Do you keep in touch?
Yeah, vaguely. I won an award for a year in beer at the British Guild of Food Writers Awards, and Jamie came to present a Lifetime Achievement Award to Delia Smith, and I wasn't certain he'd recognise me because it had been by that point probably 5 years. Put on a bit of weight since I got into beer, lost all my hair, but yeah, he immediately knew who I was and gave me his phone. And I had to take all the had to take all the photos for him as everyone got photos with him. Yeah, I mean, he's been very supportive and he's messaged me when he's seen new books come out and stuff. He's a genuinely excellent human. I get very angry when people get snooty about Jamie. I think he's changed the world in ways that people don't like to comprehend because it's pervasive, the stuff he's done.
Well, not only has the governor given you that, but do you have a lawyer? Do you have a hotshot defense lawyer? Because there's someone that is sending a message through saying that they know you and they filed a motion for your acquittal.
It's actually Jamie Oliver.
Is it Jamie Oliver?
Yeah, I'm just getting the news feed through now. The lawyer would...
As a heavily dyslexic man, I'm not sure he should be a lawyer. I'm not sure he's going to be reading those terms correctly.
It certainly wouldn't be a lawyer because they wouldn't know. It's just too much of a black ops site for them to know that. But Jamie's got powers beyond the reach of I guess. So anyway,
so
I've got an appeal or what?
Yeah, you've got an appeal, and it's
okay.
It's going to be heard by a judge. This is the part where I need to get the Wheel of Doom again.
Is it the same wheel? So I just get another 50-50 chance?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, but essentially just to like stoke up the odds a bit here. If you get innocent, you can walk free. You don't actually. You take those beers with you, and you get to walk free.
Do I have to have a bag on my head so I don't tell people where the cold store is?
Absolutely, yeah. You
Right.
cannot be allowed to leave here. Yeah.
I mean,
telling people.
So long as it's a craft brewery branded hemp.
It's actually a tote bag. Well, I mean, what's going on here then, Paul?
I think we just give it another spin. I mean, this is.
We've got the Wheel of Doom. Are we going to call it the Wheel of Doom? Can we call it that? It sounds a bit ominous.
There must be a pun in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wheel of Cheese. Let's
Maybe you could brand it Burial. It could be the Burial Wheel.
We can get that's the sponsorship deal we've been after.
Yeah, Burial are perfect. They're perfect for the podcast.
I'm gonna give it a spin. I hope we get that really inappropriate music at the end.
Spinning.
Oh, it's not looking good again. Oh, come on!
Oh! Oh my God! You got innocent by the slimmest of margins. Well, not.
Get me that tote bag. I've probably got one here.
So yeah, you're acquitted. Isn't that nice? As an apology, the state, the governor, have arranged for you to have a beer with any person. They'll take you there. They'll fly you there if you need to. That's what I mean. These are generous people, despite the fact
aren't they?
They've nearly killed you for a fairly innocuous view, but you know, they work in mysterious ways.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I mean, there's a lot going on in my brain right now. I thought I was dying and having to drink a lot of beer door, and now I guess I don't have to drink the beer door, and I get to live.
You get all that beer as well. If
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I mean, I don't want the beer door. I'll just leave that at the door. Well, I want one,
24-pack.
so I want one. I'll have one of them rather than the 24. And then in terms of a beer, sorry, a person to have a beer with. This is going to sound ridiculous, but this is what's just come into my brain. And I've got a lot of trauma to process, so I'm just going to go with this for now. I want to have a beer with a man called Narmer. He was the first king of Egypt. He united Egypt into the first ever nation state. But most importantly, he built a brewery the size of Fuller's in the desert in 3000 BC. Right? And we discovered this brewery in 2018. And the mystery of it is that although per batch he can make 50,000 hectoliters, sorry, not per batch, per year. Sorry, that'd be a fucking big brewery. Per year, he can make 50,000 hectoliters. On the whole archaeological site of Abydos, where this brewery is, they've found one cup.
Wow.
So I want to have a beer with Narmer and ask him what happened to the beer.
I mean, that's great.
Theories are in my book.
I've got some bad news for you though. You
Well,
survived. So the person that you're gonna have a beer with, they need to be alive.
A what?
Yeah.
Oh, so if I die,
If you died, then you would have been able to go and have a drink with someone in the afterlife, like Narmer.
do you know? I've never been disappointed to be alive.
This is twists and turns.
Yeah, this is
It's a real emotional roller coaster.
I'm
This.
just sweating here. This is
a wild concept, folks. This is
But I like that you managed to get both answers. Well, presumably you're going to give us an alive person there, so you've technically managed to stick your two fingers up at the system by giving us an answer to
Again.
both those questions, and you didn't even
Yeah.
have to die.
who would I like to? Do you know what? I'd like to meet Katy Perry, and I'd like to say
topical. We like this.
I'd like to say on ITV News last week, my Keep Cask Alive campaign was billed higher than your trip into fucking space.
Mic drop. That's fantastic.
She should have floated past instead of having like that daisy in her hand with a cast pint like that.
It should have been. Fuck, we've missed an opportunity there. We should have given her.
Brandon,
Should have given her a frothy Timothy Taylor's.
I hope that's not
Oh
easily.
man.
Actually, wait. If you take beer into space, I guess it would come out of the glass.
They must do. Yeah. I feel like someone should send us up there to find out. Would you go up to space if you had the chance?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah. I think I'd be more worried that the rocket would just explode, but I suppose at that point you've got like, well, what's the point in being worried about it? If you're going up there, you probably
It's
wouldn't
like,
know.
when you get on a plane or in a car with Brad. You just pass your. just pass. Oh, that's gonna haunt me, that one. You just hand over your life. You know.
Yeah. You have to do like a bit of a mind hack just to think there's absolutely nothing I can do in this scenario.
Exactly.
I just need to.
Yeah, it's in the fate of the hands of the gods now.
I mean, I don't even want to be trapped on this planet with Katy Perry and the cast of The View from America, but to be trapped in a confined space, literally in space with them, would be horrific.
Do you
It
reckon
was only 11 minutes.
Yeah. Do you reckon she sang on the way up?
Oh yeah, you can hear.
She would have done, wouldn't she? Like just singing to herself. She strikes me as one of those annoying people that probably just sing or hum to herself. You know, quite quietly.
Does vomit float like Caspia in space? Because that's what would happen. Ooh.
It's it's not where I expected this podcast to end up, but
Well, I mean, you bought a nice. I appreciate how petty the you're essentially now on a plane to go and meet Katy Perry in a bar, probably in LA somewhere, just to tell her that one thing. I think that's fantastic.
yeah, it's remarkable that my first reaction, coming out and blinking into the light, I'm saved. I have a whole new perspective on life. Fuck Katy Perry, is not. It's not a good look, is it?
It's all gone very Alan Partridge, is it? Needless to say, I had the last laugh. Very. Right. So you're free to go, enjoy your life, keep making amazing content. But what do you want to pitch before we let you out into the open, Johnny?
Sign the goddamn petition. There'll probably be a link, hopefully a link somewhere in the show notes or something, or head to our socials. But yeah, the more people we get, the more chance we have of a petition, of a debate in Parliament, and that could genuinely change the fortunes for Cask Ale within the UK. So please do sign.
Thanks so much for joining us, Johnny. It's been a real pleasure.
We've enjoyed
It's been a roller coaster, but thank you.
I'm glad you're alive.
Me too. I wasn't thinking that about 10 minutes ago, but I am now glad to be alive.
Every
I'll meet them later.
Every day will be your best going forward. You're like that guy from Fight Club now. Tomorrow will be the brightest day, the brightest dawn you've ever seen. Your breakfast will be the best it's ever tasted.
But apparently I'll still hate Katy Perry.
And on that bombshell, thanks, Johnny.
Cheers.
You've been listening to Death Row Beers, a Planet Beer TV production, hosted by Chris and Paul from the Planet Beer TV YouTube channel. Music in this episode is from the album Polygon Dwanaland by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, used with thanks under the Creative Commons license. For more beer-fueled madness and craft beer content, check out the YouTube channel and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like it, consider supporting the show over on Patreon. Until next time, be careful with those controversial beer opinions. You never know who's listening.